Okay, question one. What challenges have you and the team faced since coming to MSI in Iceland, and how have you been working to overcome them?
Mm, I'd say there are two big challenges at international events. First is kind of just all of the logistics around it, right? There are a lot of things that we have kind of a lot of direct control over when we're at home in our office in Berlin, where we're really in control of everything and we make sure that everything is very managed, nutrition, sleep, kind of treatments with players from our performance manager, sports psychology, like all of the things like meditation, warm-ups, like you name it, caffeine intake, like everything, everything is very controlled and managed. And that's a lot less so the case in a foreign country where, you don't necessarily speak the language or you haven't been there before, or there are, logistical limitations. So I'd say that's the biggest one at any international event. That was the case in China last year as well. Um, I wouldn't say there's necessarily one particular trick used to manage it. We just try to make sure that we still stick to our values and the things that work for us in Berlin. So we make sure that our communication is really good between all of our staff, that we maintain the cultural values that we try to set, and that we remind players of certain things, regularly, and that we remind staff of them as well. And the other thing is, I suppose, kind of managing expectations, which is much more kind of in-game or player related or like team atmosphere related, I guess you could say, of, very often at international events, at least my experience in the past has been that you go and like everyone is a champion, right? So you're playing against lots of really, really, really good teams. And so your scrim results become worse, things become harder. It becomes harder to test champions that you aren't like super comfortable on yet because you're playing against much higher level opponents. And that can be quite frustrating in a scrim environment because it can often feel like you're kind of hemmed into practicing certain things or playing certain things, or mistakes that you've been making that you've been allowed to get away with in your region are suddenly now being punished really aggressively. So there can be like quite a jarring adaptation phase. And on that topic, it's mostly just about making sure that we maintain being open and honest with each other and be really willing to adapt quickly and learn from other people as much as possible. So we spent a lot of time, if we were losing games and scrims, just looking at what our opponents are doing and saying, hey, here's something that they do differently that we should adapt and that we should, take for ourselves. And I think that's done quite well for us.
On a similar track, what is the biggest difference in play style or mentality between your current Mad Lions team and the team that went to Worlds 2020?
I wouldn't say there's a big difference because I think my philosophy as a coach has stayed exactly the same in terms of our play style. I think the big difference between us is that we're more varied, that we have a lot more adaptability, and that we've had some time to mature and grow as a team, and we've become more flexible through having more international experience and through having some of our mistakes punished internationally that aren't punished in Europe. But in terms of our overall philosophy about the way that we try to play the game, the way that we coach players, the way that we speak to each other, all of that is exactly the same. I think we just have a roster with better, both individual kind of higher individual level and also more adaptability and variability and more, I don't know if I want to call it more synergy between the players, but a lineup, a roster that is more synergistic in terms of the talents and the abilities that each person can bring to the team.
In the match against Cloud9, did you expect the Kindred mid lane pick by Perks? And do you think we'll see more of these off-meta picks as MSI goes on?
Yeah. We'd seen the pick before, so we weren't particularly surprised. I'm sure you will always see off-meta things, right? Like it's an international tournament that lasts how many weeks? 4 weeks. So there will always be adaptation. Like we've even seen the kind of jungle meta starting to shift a little bit in terms of the priority people place on Udyr versus Rumble versus Morgana. Like every team has a different idea of it. Lots of different teams have tried different champions into Morgana or different champions into Rumble or whatever it is. So yeah, for sure. I wasn't particularly impressed by the Kindred, but I can see the thought process. But yeah, you will see more.
We're in the middle of the competition so far. Have the other teams lived up to your expectations?
I would say on the top end, yes. I was expecting some of the teams to come in individually and be slightly better. I mean, we haven't actually scrimmed PSG because they were in our group, so my understanding of their ceiling and their limitations is not very good, to be honest, because I just haven't seen enough of them beyond the 2 on-stage games we've played. And I think we played really well against them, so it's hard to judge. I was expecting certain teams to be a little bit better. Like, for example, I was surprised that Unicorns didn't get through because I felt like they were actually quite good at Worlds last year. Like last year, they were the clear best minor region team, so I was surprised at them. Aside from that, everything is about as expected. I think we've been really impressed by RNG and impressed by Damwon as well in scrims, but we don't feel that either of them is immortal or unbeatable in any way. So I guess I'm pleasantly surprised at that, but coming into the tournament, having looked at some of those regions play, we were not particularly scared of them. It's just looking at them play in their region and then playing against them in scrims are very different things. You're not always sure how that's going to match up. So yeah, I think things have gone more or less as expected, aside from a couple of question marks.
Okay, we have some time to open the floor for questions. Use the Zoom hand raise feature under the reactions tab. We have about 4 minutes remaining. Cecilia with GameZoo.
Hello, hi. So after a phenomenal split and truly amazing win from you, you made it to the MSI. What was like going through it from a coaching perspective?
What was going through what like?
So what are your thoughts about going to MSI from a coaching perspective? Did you expect going this far? What are your thoughts on the next few stages?
I don't really like to think in expectations. I think that's not really my job as a coach. My job is to make sure that the atmosphere is good, that the players are learning and that they're prepared to go on stage. And that's something I try to instill in all of our staff and our players, is a big focus on being present and focusing on the next step. We try not to think too far in the future, and we try only to focus on what we're going to do to improve today and what we're going to plan to win the next game. So I can't really say I had any expectations at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Fomos.
People say Diamond Kia and RNG are likely to win the MSI or at least bid at the final, and they had a match today and Diamond Kia lost. So did your opinion about Diamond Kia change at all, and if so, how?
No, not particularly. I currently, from what I've seen, I feel that RNG feels stronger when we play against them.
Callie.
Hi, Callie with Checkpoint XP. Obviously, that game couldn't have gone a whole lot better. I can't imagine. Is there always a little extra satisfaction in playing your best when you play against NA?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice not to get memed on social media, I guess, especially because a bunch of us went and said some cocky things before the game. So it's nice to be able to deliver. But generally speaking, as long as we're able to give a good performance that, you know, I feel is typical of us and, you know, exemplifies the things that I want from the players. And as long as we're able to play games that our fans enjoy, then I'm happy.
Vitor.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vitor Ventura from Mais Esports Brazil. So Mad Lions had some pretty tough matches in the group stage. So I want to know how these tough matches against wildcard teams has made the team to evolve to this Rumble stage.
I don't think they changed anything particularly. I think more that some of those games were just reminders of the things that we are supposed to be doing, that some of the things that we were rusty at. I think since coming to MSI, we had put a lot of emphasis on training our early game, and that's something that was very good and that showed quite clearly in the first round robin. But that meant that we had taken our foot off the gas on some of the topics on mid-game and been a bit less disciplined, and I think that's what showed. So I think those games served as good reminders for why we do some of the things that we do in the mid-game, and why certain parts of our communication and shot calling are incredibly important. But aside from that, I don't think it changed the way that we think about anything.
Okay, thank you, Mac.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice evening.